Welcome to Coach's Corner, everyone. I am your host, Coach Tripp, Paul Tripoli, along with a friend of mine that I've met on Facebook, Kyle Lingerfelt. Coach, thank you so much for joining the show. We're going to have a blast today.
Yeah, we have similar backgrounds that we are lifelong football guys, and we are both strong safeties that got beat up to get on the field. Scout team guys that survived.
Oh, my gosh. Folks, Kyle Lingerfelt's a longtime college coach, now retired, also an administrator, worked in high school, college, and the pros. And Coach, like I do with every interview and every person that I want my listeners to really know, talk a little bit about growing up, your mom, your dad, and your siblings. You went to Godby High School, but talk about your youth.
Well, I was born in Tallahassee, but I grew up in Tampa, Lutz, Land O'Lakes, Florida, with a pretty abusive dad, a stepdad.
Oh, gosh.
And it was rough. And but I love Tampa. I grew up there until I was a sophomore in high school. And my family situation got so bad that I had to come live with my grandparents in Tallahassee on Osley Road, about a quarter mile from Doak Campbell Stadium.
Wow.
And I sold Cokes and when I was a kid at Florida State Stadium. That's what I wanted to be, a Seminole so bad, even though I'm a Gator. But I loved, my idol was growing up in Tampa was a wide receiver for the Gators named Carlos Alvarez, who I loved. He was an All-American Cuban Comet.
Yep.
My best friend growing up in Tampa was a Cuban kid named Jim Garcia. I just identified with the Cuban culture and such. But I had to move to my grandparents' house as a sophomore, and I love my grandparents. They're incredible people. They're passed away. My grandmother was the head lunchroom lady at Florida High for 30 years. That's where I'm helping out right now. I just do it for fun. And I went to Godby High School. I was a 5'9", 160-pound kid that could run, but I didn't know how to play football,
Yeah.
But the coaches this is why I became a coach. My coaches at Godby High School saved my life, Coach. They did.
Wow.
Gene Burleson and Gerald Colbert, and especially George Dean, a Florida Gator guy that was a coach there. I'd never really played football, but I could run. I ran track, I could run. And so they made me come out for football, and I learned how to play, and we won the state championship in 1977. And I was playing quarterback. We were running the option and stuff. And I dreamed of signing with the Seminoles. I had gone to Bobby Bowden's first year there at Florida State. There, you have the summer camps with kids, right?
Yeah.
500 kids out there. And I ran 4.4. I could run, and I thought, man, I'm going to get signed by the Seminoles. They didn't care. They didn't give me a sniff. So Florida had Doug Dickey as the head coach, and I went there, signed there and played there. I wasn't any good, but I played a little bit and became a Gator, and I'm glad I did. It led to a lot of cool stuff, and you're an Alabama guy, and your best friends in your life when you play are the guys you played with.
Yeah.
That. So, but that's where I started all this journey, and then got into coaching as I graduated, and just retired after 40 years at some amazing places. So,
Coach, how did you get started in coaching? Was Eastern Kentucky informally? Was Eastern Kentucky your first stop?
No, my first stop, I didn't even. I loved the weight room. That's how I got on the field. Rich Tootin was our strength coach at Florida. Brilliant coach, and I love the weight room. I really did back in and I still do. I'm an old man. I'm in the early 60s now. I've been weight room every day. But so I said, Coach, I just want to coach. And Charlie Pell was the head coach when I got done, right?
Yeah.
And he beat the crap out of us. You couldn't coach like he did those days. Now, you've been through it. I mean, it was amazing. But make it. But so I wanted to be a strength coach. And so Rich Tootin helped me get hired at a little school called Delta State University as a GA in the weight room, coaching 13 men's and women's sports under a guy named Jeff Hurd, who's an NFL strength coach now. And I had a blast for a year. But I experienced that, and you evolve as a young person. I wanted after doing that, I said, I can't sit in the weight room 12 hours a day. So I just wanted to get on the field, and I wrote handwritten notes, which are still extinct these days, but it's a great way to get things done. To Roy Kidd at Eastern Kentucky, I said, Coach, I really want to get on the field. I want to be a wide receiver or defensive back coach. And he replied, and I got a GA job at Eastern Kentucky, which is an amazing program. They'd won a bunch of national championships. And I became their wide receiver coach as a GA under the great Roy Kidd, one of the finest men I've ever known. And I got from there to you want to hear chronologically?
Coach, I'm going to give you, I don't know if it's chronological, but Eastern Kentucky, Northeast Louisiana, Mount Monroe, Florida, the Washington Redskins we're going to talk about, University of Cincinnati, Pensacola Catholic High, you were a head coach for 1 year, Marshall, the Thundering Herd, you were also there. You were at Tennessee, and then you retired. Coach, start from the beginning.
All right.
And what you learned at every stop. Jeff Hurd got you, on the strength. Al Miller was my strength coach. He's on the Mount
I know he got you on the field, didn't he?
Oh my gosh, no, he got me on the field. He's the one that you're right. He's the one that got me on the field and kept me on the field. He's on the Mount Rushmore of American strength coaches. Al Miller is, and Kent Johnson, also another 30-year NFL strength coach I had after Al Miller left. We were lucky, Coach, to have that kind of mentorship.
Well, that's how. Yeah, and you could run, but you were bigger than me. I know. I remember you playing. I wasn't. I played, but all I did is run up and down the field on the kickoff and teams. And, that's all I did. I didn't ever start a game strong, but I did let her. But But so I got on the field because of the strength coach, and I thought that what a cool way to make a living, But I did it for a year. So I don't want to make a living like this. It was just too confining. I'm an outdoor dog, and I'm not an inside cat. So I get hired at Eastern as the GA wide receiver coach, and I was terrible. I know that, but Roy Kidd's such a phenomenal man. He put up with me. He let me be the recruiting coordinator, which I always wanted to be. Then I got hired full time at was then Northeast Louisiana by Dave Roberts. Now it's Louisiana Monroe, and was a recruiting coordinator, outside linebacker coach, and really dove into being a recruiting coordinator. It's my favorite thing to do in football, more than coaching. So I signed some guys. Man, our quarterback was Doug Peterson, the head coach at Jacksonville now, Jaguars. I signed a kid named James Folston out of Cocoa High School in Florida in June. Ronnie Cottrell from Florida State helped me get. Became a first-round draft pick. Jackie Harris played in the NFL for 10 years. Wow. Roosevelt Potts played in the NFL. We had a lot of dudes, man. And we had some dudes. We really had more. Vince Brisby with the Patriots. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but I was a very good recruiting coordinator because it consumed me. And then in 1990, Coach Spurrier got hired at Florida, and they hired me to help in recruiting and coach some special teams. And so I did, and we signed a lot of good players. And I love Coach Spurrier. He fired me, but I still love him. That happens.
Coach, tell some stories about Coach Spurrier. Tell a couple stories on
Coach. He's an amazing person, man. I was a Gator. I'm a Gator, and it was my dream to coach the University of Florida.
Yeah.
I played there, and I graduated there with my big-time phys ed degree. And, you want to hear how I got hired?
Yes. I love that story. Please tell us.
I'm the recruiting coordinator at Northeast Louisiana University, and I love recruiting Florida because that's where I'm from,
Right.
So I'd get my Northeast Louisiana University school car, because we have a lot of money. It was 1 AA. And I would drive to Pensacola, and I'd start there, and I'd get on I-10 and go through, Crestview, and where we go. Yep. And I'd end up in Tallahassee because that's where I played. And then I'd recruit all those high schools, and I'd go to Live Oak, Swanee, and hang a ride on 75 and go down through Gainesville, Eastside, Buchholz, and PK Young, and Citrus. And then I ended up in Tampa because I signed good players from Tampa, Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas County, and Manatee. So this is how I got hired at the University of Florida. I'm a recruiting coordinator at Northeast Louisiana University. I'm doing my recruiting thing, which I love, man. My favorite part of being a football coach, other than the players, was the high school coaches. They're the finest people I know. They're still my best friends. High school football is the best part of football. And I've been in the NFL, college.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit.
That's the best part of football, and I'm passionate about that. So I'm driving through game. Actually, I'd stopped in Tallahassee, and Bobby Bowden interviewed me for a job, and he didn't hire me. And I knew I wasn't going to get hired. So Ronnie Cottrell got me the interview. I didn't get it. Mark Richt was nice to me and stuff, but I left there knowing I wasn't going to get hired.
Right.
You know, I was a hellraiser at the time, and I'm a Christian guy now, but I wasn't then. I admit that. And I wasn't a fit. But so I drive on down, and I'm going through Gainesville. I said, what the hell? I might as well Coach Spurrier had just been hired from Duke. Just got there in January 1990. And I said, what the hell? I'm a Gator. I'm going to go up there and introduce myself. So I pulled my school car in there, and I got my this kind of coaching stuff on, you know. And University of Florida football is not like it is now. Then it was primitive. I mean, we had an 80,000 seat stadium, right? But the football offices are upstairs, and it was not, you know, things are immaculate now.
Right.
So I go upstairs, and I always took my resume with me when I was recruiting, because you bump into people, and if you're a football coach, you have to market yourself. That's just it's a lot of who you know, right?
Right.
And I knew a lot of people, so I walk upstairs, and I got my Northeast Louisiana shirt on, you know, and there's a lady that's a receptionist. Her name was Betty Ling, L-I-N-G, and she had been there since I went to school and played there. She was the gatekeeper for Coach Spurrier. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You know, he's back in there, and she's got this office. I said, Miss Ling, do you remember me? She said, Kyle, I remember you. You know, so I said, Miss Ling, would you let me introduce myself to Coach Spurrier, please? And I know he's in there because I could hear him rumbling around. He just got in there.
Right.
He fired everybody. He brought in a brand new staff, so I knew there were spots, you know.
Right.
It makes sense. So I would have done anything, you know. And so she said, let me see. She walks back in there, right? She takes my resume back in there, and she comes back in a few minutes. She said, Kyle, he's got your resume. If he likes you, he'll give you a call, which I accepted. I got blown off, you know, right? Got blown off. He didn't know who I was.
Was Lee talking, or was that Coach talking?
I got blown away. You know, I said, yes, ma'am, thank you. And, you know, he understand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't know who I am, you know. He can hire anybody, you know.
Right.
So I'm walking out, and I swear, I'm a Christian guy now. I swear the man upstairs must have been smiling on me that day. Coach Spurrier had retained one assistant from Galen Hall old staff.
Wow.
A guy named Red Anderson, who had played with him at Florida. He was a defensive line coach, and he'd been head coach at Miami Carroll City, which is a powerhouse at the time, and became coach at Florida. And he knew me from recruiting Miami Carroll City. I'd signed a kid of his. He's a good guy. I'm walking out, right? This is how the man upstairs smiles at you sometime. I hear, Lingerfelt! And here he is. That's Red Anderson. And he said, come here. And I walked down. He said, sit down. He said, what are you doing? I said, Coach, I just want to introduce myself to Coach Spurrier. I would crawl from Monroe, Louisiana to Gainesville to work for you. I would crawl here.
Wow.
And he's, you know, and I give him my resume, and you know how that is. He said, I'll talk to him, and then you leave, you know. You think nothing's going to happen from it, right?
Right.
So I get in my car, and I drive on down to Tampa, and I check into this crappy Ramada Inn because we didn't have a lot of money to recruit on. I'm staying in this dump in Brandon, Tampa, Florida. And I just did my job, man. Great recruiters hit 8 or 9 high schools a day, and I would do that, you know, because there's always players. There's players under every rock. And so I always outworked people. That's how I did good. You know, I worked my ass off. But I had a blast doing it. So I'd hit Pillsbury County and Pinellas and get on the Skyway, go down to Manatee and things. And about a week into it, I came back to my room, my little crappy Ramada Inn room, and there's a red light flashing on my phone. You know, remember back in those days? And so I called the front desk, and they said, call Coach Red Anderson, University of Florida. Wow. Okay.
Whoa.
You had a calling card back in those days. There's no cell phone, right? I punch in about 30 digits and I get a hold of, it's like 11 o'clock at night. I get a hold of Red Anderson, University of Florida, because it's January and it's recruiting time. You know they're in the office, right? Or they're on the road. So he said, I said, Coach, it's Kyle. He said, this is what he said. He said, Coach Spurrier wants to talk to you. I said, right now? He said, no. I said, no. He said, no. Can you be at the office tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock? I said, yes, sir. It's 2.5 hours there, but I didn't care. You know, I don't sleep anyway. And I said, Coach, I don't have a coat and tie with me. He said, that doesn't matter. Right. So next morning, I get to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, University of Florida. It's supposed to be there at 8. I get there like 7, and a janitor lets me in. And I'm sitting in the lobby at Coach's office and all that. And about 7:45, in walks Steve Spurrier. He says, Kyle! Like he knows me. Says, come on in, buddy. And I walk into his office, and he's got just in disarray. You know, he's just gotten there, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a Heisman Trophy sitting there.
Yeah.
Golf clubs, but everything's everywhere. He says, sit down, buddy. That's how he talks to you.
Yeah.
Like he knows you. And he says, you want to work for me? That's out of it. The first thing he said to me, you want to work for me? You want to work here?
Wow.
I said, Coach, I would crawl from Monroe, Louisiana to Gainesville to work for you. He said, I got a spot. He said, well, you won't be on the field. How much you make there, Louisiana? He asked me how much I make. I said, Coach, I make, back then that's 1989 and you're single. You don't care. You're coaching. I make $32,000, Coach. He says, I ain't gonna pay you that. I said, Coach, I get a school car. He said, well, you ain't gonna get a car. He said, I'll pay you $16,000 and you can help with recruiting. They just hired a great man named Jim Goodman. And
wow.
Yeah, and he said, you can help Coach Goodman, and all you're gonna do is watch film. That's all you're gonna do. And you're gonna evaluate players. So I quit my job and joined the Gators.
Wow.
And it was a great ride. I love Coach Spurrier. He fired me, and he should have, but I got hired an hour later at Maryland, so it's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so Maryland was your next step. I didn't see that on here, Coach. You must have a lot of frequent flyer miles on here, man.
Coach fired me, and this is how good a man Steve Spurrier is, Paul. He called me in the office. I was coaching kickers and punters and special teams by then, and he called me on the way home. It was 19. You know, I've been there 2 or 3 years, and by then you had cell phones that were huge, but you had them, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm driving home because I worked my tail off. I get to the office at 5 and I leave at 11 at night. That's how I got jobs. I would work when people slept, you know.
Right.
And I was just consumed. I still am. But driving home about 11 o'clock at night, my phone rings and I said, Coach Lingerfelt, Gator football. And he said, Kyle, it's Coach Spurrier. I said, yes, sir. He said, be in my office tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. I said, yes, sir. Click. That's all. That's how it is, you know.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I was getting a raise, you know. It's done good. So I think, hey, I'm getting a raise, man. All right. I'm getting some money. And I go to his office next morning. He says, shut the door, buddy. And he never said that. He never said shut the door. I said, well, something's up here, you know.
Yeah.
He said, buddy, I love you, but I got to let you go. And I said, Coach, I think I'm going to get a raise. He's firing me.
Yeah.
I said, Coach, why? He said, because, and he was right. He was not wrong. Okay. Right. He said, because you're having too much fun off the field. And I did. I would go have fun. I didn't ever get in trouble or anything.
Right.
And he told me a couple of times, buddy, you got to settle down. And I didn't, you know.
Right.
And he didn't like that. And he was right. Okay. And I went from there to there in a matter of about 5 minutes. And you're not going to talk them out of it, so why talk, you know?
Right.
I said, yes, sir. Right. And they were going to pay me a year, so, you know.
Right.
But I'd been fired at Florida, and my whole dream, Paul, was to be a head football coach. At a 1AA thing, I'm not a Florida Gator head coach, but I could have been a good 1AA head coach.
Right.
Once you get fired, that's hard to recover, you know.
Yep.
So
Yeah. It's wow. What a story, Coach, man. I've been fired more times than you can count, my friend.
I bet you
So,
haven't.
oh my God. I coached 13 years. We went to playoffs 12 out of 13 years and I was fired. I mean,
That's amazing, man.
It's amazing. Yeah. That just happens. My gosh, Coach, what an amazing story. We've got, you went to the University of Cincinnati. You were the head coach of Pensacola Catholic.
I was horrible.
Hey, you were horrible. Head coach Matt Adams played for you. His little brother Luke played for me and my high school coach George O'Leary at Central Florida. So
those Adams people are a great family, man.
Great family, yes. Their father Mark played at Vanderbilt University for Bill Parcells. Yeah,
he did. Yeah,
yeah. So talk about, I don't know. Let's talk. Nick, you want to talk about the University of Cincinnati, Marshall?
Let me tell you the result of my getting fired real quick. Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
So I get fired by Coach Spurrier. So I walked back to my office and I shut the door and I locked it. I started crying. I was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not a sissy dude, but things matter to me,
Right.
Especially. And
right.
I thought I'd blown it. I thought I was done,
Right.
And so I had grown up with my grandparents as a junior and senior in high school. And I had never been to church, but they made me go. And they had both passed away that year. And I loved them so much, So I hit my knees because I didn't know how to pray. I said, Lord, please, please, please. This is the truth, Paul. Please help me,
Right.
And I swear this is true. I sat back in my chair and I just gathered myself and my phone rang 15 minutes later. And I answered the phone.
God.
I said, Coach Lingerfelt, I always answer the phone. It's a habit,
Right.
It's a good habit. And I answered the phone. I said, Coach Lingerfelt, Florida Gator football. And the other guy on the end of the line, Paul, was named Mark Duffner. I'd never heard of him. He had been the head coach at Holy Cross. And he had just become the new head football coach at the University of Maryland, 2 days earlier. And he said, Coach, I want to talk to you about, he introduced himself. I didn't know who he was. I said, I'm a new head coach, University of Maryland. I want to talk to you about being my recruiting coordinator, my tight end coach, because we want to recruit the South more,
Right.
And that's what I did basically. And I said, yes, sir, but I need to tell you, because he's going to find out anyway, that I just got fired.
Right.
And this is what he said, Paul. He said, Kyle, I knew you were going to get fired last night. I thought, well, how would you know that? And he said, because I talked to Coach Spurrier, and Coach Spurrier told me to hire you. That you're the best recruiting coordinator in the nation, but you need a change of scenery and need to grow up.
Wow.
Steve Spurrier fired me and got me a job.
Holy cow, Coach.
It's amazing. I go from being fired to praying to getting a job offer within 20 minutes to being on an airplane 3 hours later to landing in Washington, D.C. College Park that night. That's the power of prayer sometime to me. And
yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's on God's time, and most of the time it doesn't happen that fast, Coach.
It's always isn't that bizarre? But it was. I went there under Mark Duffner, who I love, and now I went from Maryland to the Washington Redskins as assistant to the owner, Jack Kent Cook, which was an adventure. And then from there,
tell some stories about that, Jack Kent Cook. You were an assistant to the owner. Yeah. He loved actually Billy Kilmer, my guest I had on this past week. He loved Billy Kilmer.
He loved Billy Kilmer. He didn't like Joe Theismann a lot.
No, he didn't like Joe Theismann.
He liked Sonny Jurgensen. So I'll tell you, I talk about jobs and how you get them. I can tell you a billion stories, but I want to tell you about how I got hired by the Washington Redskins. Because I'm never afraid to talk to people. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. I've always been a recruiting coordinator, and if you don't communicate, you're not going to have opportunities, right?
Right.
So I'm at University of Maryland, recruiting coordinator, and it's 1994, I think, or 3, something like that. And the Redskins, Mr. Cook had just fired Richie Pettibone as the head coach. He'd followed Joe what's his name? And
Bill Gibbs, yeah.
And they hired Norv Turner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Norv Turner hired a friend of mine from the University of Florida named Jack Burns. And I knew him. You know, he's a Tampa guy, played at Florida, as a Florida Gator coach. So he hired him as his running back coach. I thought, you know, and Redskin Park is only about 40 miles away from the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
You know, the facility. You know, you've been in the NFL. You know how it is, you know.
Yeah.
Facilities are immaculate. So I called Jack Burns and I say, Coach, can I come over and just watch you guys? They're doing a mini camp, you know, in the summer. Can I watch y'all practice? I just want to learn how to evaluate personnel more. I was a recruiting coordinator, and I really wanted to get in the NFL, you know. So he said, yeah, bud, and I'll leave you a pass. You know, you've been in the NFL. It's like getting into Fort Knox, you know, if you you got a pass gate and all that at the practice facility. So he leaves a pass going for me at the pass gate, and they've got this mini camp going on. It's a nighttime thing. And at the University of Maryland, Coach Duffner made us wear a coat and tie to work. I'd never done that. He was a Holy Cross guy. So every place I've been, you just dress like this, you know. But we wore coat and tie. So I get in my University of Maryland car, and I drive over to Redskin Park about 5 o'clock, and they got this mini camp going on. They got 110 guys, you know, with rookies and stuff. And I go to the gate, and they let me in, and I park my car. And I don't know if you've ever been to Redskin Park, but it's immaculate. You know, you've been, you know, felt the fields are like golf courses, you know. And there's 3 of them, and there's a beautiful facility. And I walk down there with my pass flapping in the wind, you know. You know what I mean? And I walk down there, and there's all kinds of people on one sideline. Most of them are TV, radio, press people, because the Redskins are a big deal on DC. Okay?
Right.
I said, I'm going to go to the other side by myself. I don't want to be around all that, you know.
Right.
And Paul, I'm standing there. It's amazing how the Lord blesses you. And it's raining a little bit. It's misty, and I've got a coat and tie on. I look like some slapdick, you know. I got a coat and tie. I'm standing there watching the practice. And I look down after about 10 minutes. There's this man sitting in a white golf cart about 40 yards away. And he goes, hey, hey. He said, come here. So I walk down there. As closer I get, and I realize it's Jack Kent Cook. And he's sitting in this golf cart with this big-ass cell phone, drinking wine out of a champagne glass with a Cocker Spaniel sitting in his lap.
Oh, my gosh.
He says, who are you? And I said, I'm Kyle Lingerfelt. I'm a guest of Jack Burns. He goes, who? He don't know who that is, you know. That's his – back in those days, that was his billion-dollar toy. You know, he had so much money. He's worth $6 billion, you know.
Right.
He did. But he was 80 years old, you know, and he was a great man. And he said, sit down. Because Mr. Cook never asked you to do anything. He told you to do things. And you said, yes, sir. That's how he got to be a billionaire. You know?
Right.
So I sit down, and he's just lonely, really. He's an 80-year-old man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he starts talking to me, and I listen. And he said, and he runs out of wine. Got a bottle of wine. He ran out of wine. He said, hey, here's what you're going to do. He looks at his zillion-dollar watch. He goes, you're going to go up to the hill. His offices are up on the hill, right? And you're going to get me a bottle of wine, and you're going to be back in 5 minutes. And he gets on this big-ass cell phone, and he calls his secretary, Kay. He said, this young man's coming up there. Show him what – he had a wine closet as big as your bedroom up there. And he said, show him what I want. And, blah, blah. And he said, you got 5 – I swear, this is what – you got 5 minutes. And I've got a coat and tie on with wingtips. And I start hauling ass, man. My tie's flipping in the wind. Everybody's laughing at me. I know this. I haul my ass up the hill, right? And Miss Kay lets me in the office, and she gets the bottle of wine. She gives me a corkscrew, which I'm an old hillbilly from North Florida. I had never used one. I didn't know how to use it. So I haul my ass back down the hill and looks at his watch, and it's like 4 minutes. Great job. So I learned how to use a corkscrew real quick. And I popped this bottle of wine open, and he holds his champagne glass up, this plastic champagne glass. And I'm pouring this bottle of wine and shaking. He says, settle down, settle down. I said, yes, sir. And I sat back down, Paul. This is what happened. He said, you want to work for me? Out of the blue.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And you don't get those audiences at all, you know.
Holy
cow. Yeah. And I said, yeah. I said, Coach, Mr. Cook, I have a good job. You know, he said, how much you make? How much money you make? And I made like $70,000 back then. Says, I'll pay you 80. You're going to be my personal assistant, and I'll give you a car.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, well, I loved Mark Duffner, and I love being a coach. I love being at the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
So I said, well, do you mind if I go talk to my head coach? Because that's the right thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I called my fiance at the time. She was a realtor in D.C. She said, hell yeah, take that job. But so he says, well, you can talk to him, but be at my house tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock or you don't have a job.
Wow. Wow.
I go talk to Coach Duffner that night, and he said, Kyle, you should take that. You don't get those opportunities. And I went to work for Mr. Cook. It was a 2-year amazing adventure, So
holy cow. Coach, man, what an amazing life you've had. You also spent some time at Vanderbilt University. Coach,
yes.
How does it feel to coach players that are smarter than you?
Well, that was basically it for 40 years. But even right now, I'm helping out at Florida High here. They're smarter than me. But
Coach, excuse me. Let's talk about that.
Bandy or just.
Well, no, I want to talk about high school football because, and I also want to talk about the book that you wrote. Don't let me forget that. Let's talk a little bit about high school football. I loved coaching high school players. High school football is still the most precious time in my life. And when I talk to ex-NFL players, ex-college players, almost to the man, 100% of them say that is correct. High school was the most precious time. Coach, explain a little bit about that and talk some more on why high school, because you grew up with those kids. You spent so much time with them. In college, you may have a girlfriend, you got classes, you got responsibilities. In the pros, you sometimes, most of the time you go home, you go home to your family, and it's not the closeness that you have in high school.
No, and I the reason I became a coach is because of my high school coaches. I wanted to be like them. They saved my life, probably. I wouldn't have played college football without. I might be, running a McDonald's or something. And I've had a hell of a football life.
Right.
But it started there because some guys that my favorite people in football, and I know a load of people just like you do, are high school coaches. They're the best people. They're the best people. They're my best friends. So I thought, I went right from playing and graduating at Florida to going into college coaching. I didn't touch the high school at all. And I'm at University of Cincinnati in the late 90s, and I'm the recruiting coordinator, and I got in some trouble for a recruiting violation, and they fired me. I wouldn't be fired for it today, but I was then. So I'm fired. So I thought, well, hell, you know what? I can coach a high school. That's going to be easy. I called down to North Florida. Gene Cox was the head coach of Leon, and he was a legend. And he said, I love Coach. And he said, he knew every job, He said, well, there's a job over at Pensacola Catholic. Well, that sounds good because I want to live on the beach. I really do. My whole purpose was selfish. I wanted to live on the beach and thought it'd be easy to coach high school.
Right. So
I called Rich LeBounty, who's a great person, and Sister Kirsten was the principal, and they hired me on the phone. Right. So I pack all my crap up, and Cincinnati had to pay me for a year, so I don't need a lot of. I had 2 salaries,
Right.
And I drive on down to Pensacola. I was hired on the phone, right? And I think this is going to be so easy. Coach, it's the hardest job I've ever had. It's the hardest job I've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
I get there and I rent this place on, Pensacola Beach. I love Pensacola. It's a tremendous place to live.
Yeah, it's great.
You know where the water tower is on the beach?
Oh yeah.
I leased a condo across the street, and I've got this Jeep, and I'm all muscled up. I'm in good shape, I'm like 34, I guess. I don't know. And the best part of living there was driving across those 2 bridges in the morning and at night.
Beautiful, yeah.
Seeing the sun come up. I love Pensacola, but I don't know what I'm doing, Coach. I swear. Right. And I can coach wideouts. I can coach DBs. I can be a great recruiting coordinator. I can coordinate special teams, but I'm not a great head coach. And so I get there, and they introduce, you've been there, they think I'm going to help them turn it around. I think I replaced a guy named Brad Laggets or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They've been horrible. So I think I'm the savior, man. I do. I think that. I still do. But so they introduced me. You've been there in that gym, and they say, this is our new head coach, and all the students laugh, not bull crap. And then I round the team up, and I think, holy crap. It ain't like now at Catholic. There went a lot of dudes, man. And we got to play pace.
It wasn't like when I coached there. No, it was.
We had no dudes. I loved the kids. And I dove into making the weight room nice and, cleaning it up. And that was Bay rolls around, and, I loved my kids there. They were great kids. I loved Jason G. Rye, my quarterback, and John Greeny, and I love Matt Adams. He was a sophomore, tough kid, and a guy named Booger, played at Tulane, I think. We had good kids, but I was not a good coach. And I didn't. They didn't let me hire anybody, really.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to get assistants there. Yeah.
And I got to hire one guy, and he was just fresh out of college. But I learned my year there. I was horrible. We went, I think, 0-10. We had one game. We had a chance to beat Gulf Breeze, and we fumbled. But I learned, even though I thought I knew, I learned how hard a job a high school coaching is. I stayed a year, and I went right back to college.
Well, now you had more newfound respect for high school
I did, man.
And that that helped you. That helped you in your personnel career, because you mentioned that recruiting and personnel is your passion in football.
Yeah.
And that's because, Coach, you're a people person, man. You can get along with so many people. You're outgoing, you're upbeat, you're enthusiastic, and I was that way on the field, and I believe coaches need to be that way on the field. You need to be enthusiastic, because if you aren't, how can you expect your kids to be enthusiastic? I had one saying, when I walked on the football field, it's a beautiful day for football. And to this day, 10, 15, 20 years later, I'll hear kids at the grocery store yell across the aisle, it's a beautiful day for football. So,
that's a great tagline.
Yeah. So, I didn't invent anything myself. I didn't reinvent the wheel. Most of the stuff, even Coach Ryan, most of the stuff he got was from Frank Thomas and Newt Rockne. So I just got it from an old coach, a former coach of mine that was like that. And I always related to that. And the kids do that as well. But Coach, all the cities you've been, what was your favorite? What was your unique place? 2 or 3 maybe places that you really enjoyed your stops?
Well, I've been in 9, 10 jobs. I don't have a city I don't like.
Wow.
But my favorite, which you won't think so, is Cincinnati. I love Cincinnati, Ohio. That was my favorite stop, man. I lived on a thing called Skyline Chili. That's what I lived on. And I would get to the office, and I promise you, 5 o'clock in the morning, because I always made it a point of pride to be the first guy in the office and the last guy to leave. Because in recruiting, you can always be doing something. I mean, I'd get there, I'd stay at least 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night, because I could call California, and it was only 9 or 10 o'clock, to talk to those people.
Right.
And so, but I love Cincinnati. There's not a bad town. The best town other than Cincinnati, and I love Nashville, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. You got 14 SEC teams. I guess they're going to get some more. I don't know. But if you take the SEC, and I played in Gainesville, and I've been all these places, and there's what Vanderbilt has going for it, Coach, is not just the degree is amazing, but the only thing they have going for the school, other than the other 13 SEC schools, is Nashville's the best city in the SEC. So that's how we would recruit, because it's a great city.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Nashville, but I love Gainesville. I love working in Washington, D.C. That's my least favorite place to have lived, because it's a mess.
Right.
But I loved all those places. Huntington, West Virginia, Marshall are tremendous people.
Yeah,
they're just hillbillies, and but so am I. So
Coach, before you go, I got it. What is the name of your first book that you wrote? And
I wrote a book. I wrote a book while I was at where was I? Cincinnati, called The Recruiting Manual. It's about 300 pages. It's 27 chapters as to how to run a college football recruiting program from A to Z, and it's a lot of shelves. The recruiting manual. Then right now, when I'm retired, I just help out at the high school and play golf and walk on the beach now. But one of my best friends in this world, Paul, is a guy named Mike Cassidy. He's you. He's a starting strong safety at Kentucky and all SEC wrestler. He's one of my best friends. He's fought cancer for 10 years.
Wow.
He's an assistant for Jeff Brom at Louisville now.
Uh-huh.
But I served on 3 staffs of Mike Cassidy. I love that man. Okay.
Wow.
He's fought cancer. He's bone cancer, which you don't survive. He's fought it.
Gosh, yeah, that's what my mom died of, bone cancer.
He's beaten the hell out of it. Okay?
Wow.
He's 68 now, but so I'm writing a book with him about his football journey in mind, and because we've been together I've known him for over 30 years, in football, and we've been through so many battles together, and I love to write.
Yeah,
I truly do. So that's what I'm doing. I write about 5 or 10 pages a night, and he's so you know how it is. He's consumed at Louisville. They just beat Georgia Tech. That's how he's consumed. So it's hard to write the book without his
during the season.
Every day. Yeah.
Season,
so we try, but it'll be titled something. It's really about him and our relationship. And he's a sergeant major's son from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. You ought to have him on. He's amazing, man. He's been a defensive coordinator.
I'll get him on soon. I'll get him on soon, Coach. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
I've rambled on. Is that enough?
No, Coach. No, it's not enough.
Hey, please, I know you know these people. Please do me a favor. Please tell Sister Kirsten and Coach LeBounty and those Catholic people I apologize for being such a shitty coach. I know,
Coach.
They'll say,
Coach,
that guy
I want
was
to tell you
crazy.
something. Coach, I want to tell you something. I want to thank you for contacting me and starting this friendship that we have.
Yes,
and actually, when we were talking the other night, I got a couple other signs from the good Lord, and you and my daughter inspired me to start a book.
That's what you should do, Coach.
That's what I started yesterday, Coach.
Story.
I started it yesterday, and you inspired me along with my daughter. I want to thank you, Coach, for that, man.
Well, listen to me real quick. You're the boss, but you can do it. But it takes discipline. It's a pain in the ass. You'll start liking it, then you'll hate it, and you'll like it, and you hate it. But you have to shut yourself down and focus 4 or 5 hours a day. And sometimes it'll flow. Some days it'll be a pain in the ass.
Right.
But it takes a lot of discipline, man. I mean, because you can get distracted. But Paul, you've got a phenomenal story, and I don't know why you haven't told it yet. I mean, you're freaking walk-on at Alabama from New York.
Yeah, man.
Played a bunch.
Coach, I just admire your hard work. There's no substitute for hard work. You earned your retirement, and now you live down there close to Big Bend area, and I'm glad you came out well during the hurricane.
Yeah, I sat right through it. It was a lot of fun. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you, bud. Go, roll Tide.
Roll Tide, man. Go Gators. I don't
Gators.
want to talk about the Gator performance. I don't want anything negative today.
No. That guy will get it right. Billy Napier's a good guy. So.
Coach,
anyway.
Peace, man. I'll talk to you real soon. Thanks, brother.
All right. Love you, Paul.
Buddy.
Take care,
Love you,
bud.
bud. Coach Kyle Lingerfelt, man, became a really good friend of mine. He just contacted me on Facebook, and we just have this synergy between him and I hope you enjoyed it. I love great stories. Coach Kyle Lingerfelt is one of perseverance and determination and just hard work. And it's just a beautiful story to tell. We'll have him on again because, believe me, he's got a lot of stories. Stay tuned for these important messages without our sponsors, Hill Kelly, Siler Agency, Ronnie's Car Wash, Pensacola Glass, Step One Auto, Cordova Lanes, Arbitrium, Bama Club, Badlands, Beck Realty, Beck Partners, I should say. I could just go on, man. What a great partnership I have with them. I hope you enjoyed today's Coach's Corner, and we'll talk to you real soon. So
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer, individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Hey, Bill, some game, huh?
I haven't really noticed, Paul.
What? The biggest game of the year?
I've been looking over my insurance. Talk about problems I'm trying to figure out.
Well, do what I did. Call the Seiler Agency. They showed me what I needed and what I didn't. They even saved me money. Now, instead of worrying about my insurance, I can worry about the big game.
Contact the Seiler Agency at 476-7443 for all of your insurance needs. Your independent agent for home, auto, boat, RV, commercial, general liability, life, and sound investment strategies. Call 476-7443 today.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
75 years of service and high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple pane of brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
Step One works so hard to get you in the perfect car.
Looking for a better car buying experience? With the Step One Advantage from Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola, receive no-hassle market-based pricing or incentives by pre-ordering. Looking to sell or trade? Our dedicated team will even come to you. Plus, every vehicle sold at Step One supports local charities right in your neighborhood. Experience the Step One Advantage at Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola today.